Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Capital and Kayfabe. I am your co-host JP Jampaz from the Two Man Power Trip. Of course, joining me is the co-host extraordinaire, the political pundit, the campaign manager, the author, the journalist. He's done it all, Mr. Jack Hunter. Jack, welcome in. How you doing?
Good to be with you. Lots to talk about today.
Yeah, I almost was getting ahead of myself. I'm thinking of all the different things going on. Epstein's a huge mark. Brody King's in trouble. This is going on. I feel like we should start off with Brody King, though, here with Mr. Abolish ICE. This was so fascinating because there was a report he wasn't on Dynamite this past week. He wasn't allowed to be on Dynamite because the Dave Meltzer has reported because WBD said he wasn't allowed because of the anti-ICE chants that were going on during his match the week prior when he beat MJF for the title eliminator to now become the number one contender for the AEW world title. Man, what a whirlwind. I'm thinking, like, when I first read it, I'm like, wow, that's a weird thing. They don't want the chants. They don't want to mess up the deal that's about to go through. Like, what is Meltzer talking about? They're bowing down to Trump. What the heck? Make sense of this, because now we're hearing that this isn't true at all. That was never the case. What do you think about that?
I think it's one of two things, and I believe you and I in a separate conversation talked about that maybe Dave Meltzer, I think you just mentioned that, was the first person to speculate, we think, that WBD wanted to keep Brody King off TV because of the anti-ICE chants from a prior show. Was that the first person that kind of said something about this?
Yes. Yep.
So I think one of two things is probably true, and let me be clear, I'm speculating here.
Yep.
Dave Meltzer said this, probably should have said he was speculating. I don't think he did. Other people ran with it, and now WBD is saying, no, we never said this, or vehemently denying it, or they really did do this and now don't want to be seen that way and are vehemently denying it. I think it's probably between those two things. From my standpoint, I mean, this is a big corporation. They want people to watch their show, right? Like, that got mainstream attention. I know internally, I shouldn't say I know, but people I trust reported that internally AEW was very happy with the outside of wrestling media attention that this got. I remember TMZ did a story, NBC did a story about the anti-ICE chants as it relates to Brody, who's outspoken against ICE, and it was just the fans reacting to his political stance is all it was. If they're I think it's BS. If I had to guess, I don't think this ever happened. I think it's something that got away, whether it's out of Meltzer's mouth or whatever, and became a runaway story that probably doesn't have legs. I could be completely wrong. And what do you think, John?
I don't know. It's kind of interesting because right as before we were about to air, I get an email from WBD. Literally says WBD/Brody King speculation. It says, please see the below statement attributable to Warner Brothers Discovery. Warner Brothers Discovery did not have any involvement in Brody King's upcoming AEW schedule. Any speculation to the contrary is categorically false. Brody is scheduled to appear during the next AEW event, which will air this Saturday on TNT and HBO Max. So that was directly from WBD to me, and to obviously several other people in the wrestling business as well. So that kind of threw me for a loop too, because I'm like, wait a second. I'm listening to one side, but then I'm like, okay, that kind of makes sense just for the fact that he literally is in the main event 3 days later. So what does it matter if it's 3 days? Like that can't be true that they're pissed about the anti-ICE stuff.
Right. That wouldn't make any sense whatsoever.
Yeah. What do they care?
Main event for the world title at their big Australia show. And if WWE, which is the other big American companies, any indicator that's done a lot of stuff internationally, as has AEW, they send their top stars overseas ahead of time to do media junkets and press and whatnot to promote the show. That's just par for the course. So it makes sense that the two participants, that being world champion MJF and challenger Brody King, in the main event of their big Australia show, Collision, Grand Slam, whatever, would be in Australia already doing stuff and not on their TV at Dynamite in Ontario, California. So once again, I made up story by people who like to make up things and talk about stuff. So
that's the thing too, where I tend to lean towards WBD on this one, because for one, I just don't think they care about those chants. Who cares? They're not they're not kowtowing to Trump just because of a deal. What does he have to do with the Netflix WBD deal? You know what I mean? Like that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And then throw in the fact that too, I guarantee you MJF and Brody King, along with Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale, are over there early, which it was confirmed by the way, the Willow and Harley on the show are over there ready doing media, that they'd be over there in Australia right now doing media to promote their main event match to try to get more, more groundswell in Australia for the big Grand Slam show coming up Saturday. It doesn't make sense to me. And the fact that he's in the main event and they didn't take him out of the main event kind of is like a red flag. Like, this is probably BS.
We can't have this guy on our Wednesday show because our big show on Saturday we've been promoting for 2 months in Australia. He's in the main event. Like, that doesn't make any sense whatsoever if that's what they were really trying to do. So anyway.
so silly, because it's like, wait a second, the guy's in the main event of basically a mini pay-per-view, so to speak. I know it's almost like a Clash of the Champions, so it's bigger than a Dynamite, it's bigger than a Collision, it's like a step above. It's WCW Clash of the Champions, basically, and he's the main event of it. So I don't think that he's in trouble because the crowd chanted whatever they wanted to chant. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that's true.
If it was that big of a thing, they would do some storyline thing or something to get him off of it. If like corporate pressure or something like that, like, corporate heads not wanting the Briscoes on, WBD TV, or I guess Turner, just whatever at the time. That was a thing. It existed. It was stupid because, come on, forgive and forget. But this does not appear to be anything like that from what we can add up, what you just said. It doesn't make sense that would be the case.
And my buddy texted me because I completely forgot. Obviously, I watched the show and I didn't even think about it. He goes, MJF had a promo and he talked about the main event and how he's going to get his revenge. Also, so I'm like, that's true. He goes, and also Kenny Omega said that he was the biggest challenger for the title, meaning King. So I was like, that's right, he did. I'm like, so they continue to pump him up on the show twice, and two different guys are pumping him up. So it's like, okay, he's not in any sort of trouble for whatever the crowd wants to chant.
Right. No, I think it's just people running their mouths. And Kenny Omega was in Swerve's face. He said, "You think you're the most dangerous man in AEW?" I think Kenny Omega said, "Most dangerous man in the world." He said, "That's not you. It's Brody King," what you just said. So, like, this guy's not getting buried or dismissed or whatever.
Kenny stepping up on the promo there finally. Everybody was getting on him for not stepping up on his promos.
We're recording this on the Thursday after the February, I guess it would be 11th Dynamite. Boy, what a great... What you just said, John. Kenny Omega's promos, Swerve, the face-to-face was great. Saw 2 title changes that matter on a Dynamite, with Tekla becoming the new women's champion by defeating Chris Statlander. It won't be spoilers by the time people see this. And Kyle Fletcher beating the new guy, Tommaso Ciampa, for the TNT title. Am I crazy to say, you bring Ciampa in, it's a big deal. You put the TNT title on him, all good. Him losing that to Kyle Fletcher, I think he's already a made man. I think he's okay. It doesn't matter that he doesn't have that title. Am I wrong to say that?
Somebody, Rob Naylor, a good longtime close personal friend of mine, put this on Twitter, which is a great point. He said it reminds me of Booker T, Rick Martel, and Saturn when they had like that little mini feud going on. Where he would lose, Martel would win the title, and it kind of went around. Kind of makes it just more unpredictable. I don't mind it because it's not the world title, so to speak, so I don't mind it changing hands as much. I thought it was kind of cool because I didn't think he would win. It actually threw me for a loop that he won. So I'm like, whoa, that was cool. Get Fletcher back to where he should be and keep pushing, but then make Ciampa at his level. You know what I mean? Like, keep him up there.
Yes, no, I totally agree. To me, Kyle Fletcher should be in the world title picture, but they've got a bunch of guys in that world title picture right now. So
too heavy right now,
Right. So in lieu of put the TNT title back on him, how many people have been 2-time TNT champions? It's not many. It's a fairly new belt.
Yep.
But he's won a deal. Ciampa won it from Mark Briscoe. It looked like Mark Briscoe, he came out at the end. He's going to be a part of that. Do we see a 3-way Saturday? Do we see a 3-way on Dynamite? Is this something that happens at Revolution with Ciampa, Mark Briscoe, and Kyle Fletcher or something? I don't know, but they're all in that mix, and it's a big deal. I think it's great booking. What a great show. And that Kyle Fletcher and Kyle Fletcher and Tommaso Ciampa in particular, what a great match. That was the best match on that show, full of lots of good wrestling.
So Grand Slam Australia will be this Saturday. MJF versus Brody King in the main event. That should be a good one. So the guys over at Matt Men Podcast, which is part of Wrestling Observer, Andrew Zarian, he always breaks scoops. He's always pretty damn accurate too. I've even talked to some wrestlers, because sometimes you want to get a feel like, oh, it's sliced wrestling, or like these random, and they're like, no, that's BS. They're just making up, or it's obvious stuff. Like somebody today put out their Obafemi versus Lesnar is being discussed, and was like, well, everybody saw the Rumble. Obviously, it's being discussed that they might wrestle each other. I mean, Jesus Christ, come on, ridiculous. But he breaks a lot of stuff, and I've asked some wrestlers. They said no, he actually has some real like not, I wouldn't say guys that give him information, but friends within the business that can tell him stuff, and he's got good sources. Let's put it that way. So he's got good sources.
Sources, and usually multiple sources is what any good journalist would do in any field, wrestling or otherwise. And when Andrew Zarian says something over the years, I pay attention because he's usually correct.
Yes, and he doesn't overdo it either with the million, like, oh, I heard this and I heard that. Right. It's usually when he actually has it. So he did report that Louis Armstrong there, the arena in New York City, the tennis stadium, will have a pay-per-view Double or Nothing in May. I believe it might be May 24th-ish. I believe that's around the date. And it's been confirmed. So AEW headed to another tennis stadium in New York. Pretty damn cool. I love it.
Super cool. It was cool when they did it with Arthur Ashe at the Grand Slam during those. And this is another New York tennis stadium. I love the idea. I love the setup. The optics of the tennis stadiums are really cool.
Yes.
And that's in your neighborhood, kind of, John.
Yeah, I know. I think I might want to go to that one. That's not too far from me.
You can afford the tickets for AEW.
Yeah, they're way cheaper. I'll tell you that much. I can afford them.
They're reasonable.
Yeah. The thing is, though, to me, I was like, oh, man, no Arthur Ashe, which probably means that they're not as hot as they once were when you obviously have Omega and Danielson, and you're selling out Arthur Ashe with that. That's like a dream match. But, you're selling out. But still, 14,500, that's a pretty damn – I mean, obviously, it's going to be probably sold out. It's New York, a great, great market. A little bit smaller, but still, that's a cool venue. And I don't know why other wrestling companies haven't run these tennis stadiums. The aesthetics is awesome. It looks cool as hell.
It's super cool, and that was Tony's idea. He did the Arthur Ashe Grand Slams. He always wanted to do it in that tennis stadium because of how it would look and just how neat and different it is. And I think it's exciting. Double or Nothing, that would be in May, I guess. Does that sound
May
right?
24th. So I think it's Sunday, May 24th. Yeah.
Okay. That's right. Because when I saw it, my birthday is June 1st, and that's where my mind went. But maybe come see you. I don't know.
Yeah. Come up. I wouldn't mind going to that. Actually, it's funny. My cousin, he's a big fan. But it's so funny. Like, I think I mentioned this to you. All of a sudden, he sent me a picture from CMLL. He was in Mexico City. He went to CMLL. Oh, wow. So I'm like, whoa, what the hell? And then this was years ago. He sent me a picture. He was at the show that Mondami was at in New York City. So, like, he's like at all these random shows. I'm like, why don't you tell me? I was like, I thought they were going down to Mexico. But if you're in New York, I'll freaking go to AEW in New York. So he doesn't tell me.
Was he at Arena Mexico? Isn't that where CMLL runs? That's so cool. That's where I would want to go, though. I want to see AAA and CMLL and what they're doing these days.
Yeah. But he'll randomly be at all these awesome shows. I'm like, man, what a cool venue. And he was saying that Arthur Ashe was just unbelievable. Just the venue itself is cool. He lives closer there, but still, I was like, man, I would have went to that. Damn it.
That's super cool. And speaking of, before we get on to other wrestling and political things, I watch the Fox Mexico AAA show every Saturday. It's one of my favorite things to watch. I'm not saying it's my top thing. It's probably AEW or what WWE is doing on any given week. One of my favorite things, and this feud they have going on at the end of the show with El Grande Americano and OG El Grande Americano, both of which I have no idea who these people are. But, you have the real El Grande Americano, who's a baby face in Mexico, and the OG, who's a complete heel. Well, they were all
Raw. It's reversed.
Raw. And the El Grande Americano that we've known the most is booed, and the OG is cheered. That just
so weird.
I love it.
It's literally like Bret Hart. Remember in '97 with USA and Canada, where you get booed one place, you get cheered another. I love it.
I don't know. I don't know why that tickles me so much, but it's one of my favorite things in wrestling right now.
So interestingly enough, though, I wanted to mention this just to stay on AEW just for a second here. So Andrew Zarian was also teasing it. He didn't really outright say, but he was teasing it that possibly AEW could be getting phenomenal. And I was like, whoa, what is going on here? So
he said that?
Yeah, teasing AJ Styles. So I guess he's been asked or talked to about coming into AEW. What do you think about that? Could that possibly be true?
There's nothing that indicates from anything that's been reported or whatever that AJ Styles had any problems whatsoever with WWE. Is that a fair statement?
Yes.
Do you think it's possible? And this is me speculating, as people who talk about to say this is me speculating. This is based on no source information or anything like that. Do you think it's possible? Cena was the kind of wrestler he was and retired in the way he did. Do you think it's possible, AJ being the kind of wrestler he is, who was the face of TNA, who made a big name in New Japan, who was in Ring of Honor for a cup of coffee, just the kind of guy he is, that he had a conversation with Triple H or Nick Khan or whoever and said, hey, I'm going to retire in February, actually go to other companies and do this, and maybe even go back to WWE at the very end. I don't know. It's wrestling. They can do anything they want. And out of respect for him and what he represents, they were like, cool, go do it. And that last match in WWE would be even bigger by going to AEW for a cup of coffee there and doing something in New Japan. Is that possible? Because if it is, I can think of no better retirement year for a wrestler like AJ in his career than that.
Well, if you're AJ, right, his contract technically is up. He can go wherever he wants, do whatever he wants. Technically, he's retired from WWE, but he left the gloves on, so he's leaving the door open at least. So even if it's a smidge, leaving it open. So let's just say Tony gives him a call and says, "Hey, I'll give you $5 million. You wrestle 4 times, and I'll do a nice swan song like I did for Sting." And then AJ, whose buddies with Sting, would be like, "What do you think?" Sting's probably like, "Yeah," just making this up, of course, but I'm just theoretically throwing this out there. Like Sting's like, "Yeah, it was awesome. Hell, I got paid this much, and I wrestled this much. Blah blah. They treated me like gold." And like AJ may be like, "Okay." And obviously, he's got Samoa Joe, who's a good friend of his, and all these other guys that are there. He knows Omega very well, obviously. So he knows the Bucks, the buddies with the Bucks. So it could be just the fact of like, hey, we'll give you $5 million, wrestle 4 times a year, and then retire. Right. He might do it for the money. Who knows? I mean, it might be something where his wife would be like, "What are you, an idiot? You got to take the money." You know what I mean? Who knows?
I just think I don't know because I'm not these people. I don't want to speak for them, but I can't see Triple H being like, AJ's a jerk. He's really hurting WWE's business by doing something like this. Sting made sense to retire in AEW because when he was in WWE, they did him wrong, and then he retired in the company that did him right. Yep. It made sense for Cena to retire in WWE because he'd only been in WWE. Yep. AJ doing a bunch of different things and maybe ending in WWE. Maybe he doesn't even do that, but if he did, that makes the most sense in the world. And what you just said, Tony Khan would throw a bunch of money at him. You said $5 million for 4 or 5 matches or whatever. You got AJ Omega, AJ Ospreay whenever he gets back, whatever that looks like. Maybe the timing's not right. Maybe AJ Kyle Fletcher, Swerve. I don't know. There's a lot of things you can do there, but they're dream matches that no AEW fan ever expected to see, and probably AJ never expected unless he's got some kind of cool arrangement going on with the company that really paid him all those years and made him a household name, which is WWE. That's what they do. I remember AJ in an interview years ago talking about taking his kids to baseball games and stuff. And when he was in TNA, they were like, "Oh, his dad's a wrestler." WWE, no, something else. When he's in WWE, everybody knew who he was. So that's always been his attitude about WWE.
Got to be honest, for me personally, I'm only interested really a Samoa Joe rematch. If Danielson came out of retirement, because I love their feud in ROH when they wrestled. Ospreay, if he's healthy, obviously. And the one I thought of first, and kind of the only one that I would say would have to do is Omega. That's the match. I don't really care too much about Fletcher, MJF, or Swerve, even though those would be like good to have. I think AJ versus Omega would be awesome. That would be a dream match.
AJ versus Omega would be awesome. Do they do Christopher Daniels or Christopher Danielson, Samoa Joe, and AJ? Do they repeat that? Because that's the match everybody remembers.
If Daniels isn't retired, I wouldn't mind that either because I'm an old school Daniels mark as well. But yes, I wouldn't mind that at all.
I think he's retired. I think he'd still go. I think he's just old and was like, all right, what am I doing at this point? But would you do it again for that?
Right. I think he's 53.
He's in his early 50s. Something like that, yeah. I genuinely think, all right, I'm not in the world title picture. I'm not, he was just wrestling. So, stop and do what he's doing. But, if you have a reason, this would be a reason.
Yeah.
And maybe you can't recreate the old magic. Maybe just him and Joe or something. I don't know. But the biggest match in TNA history, I always remember of Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle or Christopher Daniels, Samoa Joe, and AJ.
Unbreakable. Yeah. Yes. Awesome stuff. So interestingly enough, Meltzer also said another kind of controversial thing. He said WWE versus AEW is like the left versus the right, meaning that WWE fans are conservative and that AEW fans are liberal. And he was saying that the fans lean towards Trump in the WWE and the AEW fans lean like anti-Trump. I'm thinking to myself, I don't know if wrestling fans even necessarily, I mean, obviously we're doing a show and mixing in. So there is some crossover for sure, but I don't think it's that when I go into a show, I don't think people are like, "Oh, I'm pro this or pro that." They're just there to kind of have fun and like wrestling. I don't know if it turning it political in that way makes sense. I don't know if that's correct.
I think that's his West Coast view of it. I think there is something to it in his defense a little bit. How do I put this? Well, first of all, Shad Khan donated to Trump. Everybody knows that. So do what you want with that. That's a thing. And his friends with him. 2 billionaires get chummy pretty quick.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know Tony Khan's politics. He doesn't put him out there, and I respect that. To the degree, look, smart fans, it depends on where you're at geographically too. I don't even know why I said that, but like I'm like in a wrestling text group, and most of them are pretty left wing. One of them was Grande Americano early on, which is I didn't say anything; it just made me laugh. You know, like cultural appropriation, like that kind of thing. And look at where we're at now. We're like the Latino audience in Mexico loves this guy, or one of them. I think saying that WWE leans Trump or right wing is fair because of Linda McMahon, obviously out of respect to her mother, Stephanie McMahon, and in respect for his mother-in-law, Triple H, have been around the Trump administration and what Linda's doing and all that. The history of Donald Trump with WrestleMania and all of that kind of stuff. And I mean, he's in the WWE Hall of Fame. You've got that. But I mean, like Kevin Nash is a very blue guy and outspoken about it, and he's more associated with WWE than AEW.
And Triple H's best friend,
Triple H's best friend. I think Kevin Nash said, and I really respected this. Like, he's like, dude, like, Triple H is one of my closest friends, and his mother-in-law's in the Trump administration. Like, what? Him being my friend's more important than any of that. Like, which is the correct answer, whether you're left, right, in the middle, or whatever. Like, that's the way you should look at these things. When Glenn Jacobs ran for mayor in Knox County as a Republican, Mick Foley, who's very blue, endorsed him as a person. He's like, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, Glenn Jacobs is the kind of guy you want in politics. But, like, that's the way it should be. I can see where Meltzer's coming from a little bit. The abolish ICE thing probably blown in WWE. Is that a fair thing to say? They not because they don't want people to express themselves. They don't want to get too political, period. CM Punk in AEW could run around in, trans rights shirts or whatever. I don't think he would be doing that in WWE. Is that a fair statement? Would you agree with that?
Correct. Yep.
So there's that, but I don't see that as, other than the things I just mentioned, that WWE is trying to be right wing. They're just trying to do good business and not be political. That's a TKO thing. You could throw in UFC. I mean, Trump shows up at all those. I think if Biden wanted to go to a UFC event, they would have had him, but that wasn't a thing. That's a uniquely Trump thing, like he used to go to Don King boxing matches. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It just kind of becomes that. And some of the UFC fighters are outspoken in support of Trump, but if they went the other way, I don't know that they would muzzle them. So I think it's organic politics in a sense. Who the hell was excited about Kamala Harris? If you liked her, you just liked her because she wasn't Trump. So, like, what does that look like in the wrestling sphere? I don't know. So I think there's maybe a morsel of what Meltzer's saying is true based on what AEW people are allowed to get away with politically and expressing themselves. That's not true in WWE, but a lot of it's just where it fell and not intentional, I think. If that's fair to say.
Very interesting, though, when I'm looking at a lot of the Epstein files, and I'm not making a huge leap here because we are talking wrestling. I was shocked. Obviously people were joking around saying that the tribal tattoo he had, which apparently was real, was like the Goldberg tattoo. And like people were kind of making all these like wrestling references and stuff. But then you actually look into it. Vince McMahon isn't in there. He's never mentioned in there. But a bunch of other wrestlers are mentioned there, which was kind of shocking. So him and his friend, I guess it's Harry Fish, whoever the heck that is, they're big fans of Iron Sheik, and we're sending each other Iron Sheik quotes back and saying how great that is. They were talking about Bruno Sammartino when he passed away and how sad it was. And then they follow up with how sad it was when Pedro Morales died and was talking about Pedro Morales. So it seems like, and if you watch or if you go through some of the text messages, he's talking about big time wrestling. He's watching Haystacks Calhoun. He's watching, like world class. Like he was like a big wrestling fan. He's like big mark. It seemed like. What did you kind of make of all that? Was like I kind of like chuckled at it, but then I'm like, that's kind of weird. I don't want like wrestling fans being associated with this stuff either. So I was like,
I was asked about this in a radio interview yesterday morning. This specific question, Epstein.
Oh, nice. Okay, cool.
And I'll say right here what I said then. So there's no demographic, including child molesters, where pro wrestling doesn't touch it. Like people just liking pro wrestling, politics. You find people in journalism or whatever, political figures that like wrestling. Hitler liked dogs. I like dogs. Does that mean I'm on Hitler somehow or agree with him? No, that means he was an evil, monstrous person who liked dogs. And I also like dogs. Jeffrey Epstein was an absolute monster and a man of a certain age who grew up in the United States. You watch professional wrestling. Look at the people he was talking about. Bruno Sammartino, Pedro Morales. I mean, I was in elementary and middle school when all that stuff was going. When Bruno was winning, I wasn't even alive, a lot of that. So Epstein being the age he is, that's the stuff he would know. And if he liked it, fine. But I don't know what that has to do with other wrestling fans, wrestling in general, or doesn't excuse the awful things that he did. So that's the way I look at it. But people do want to talk about it. It's interesting. It kind of humanizes him a little bit. And he is a human being, no matter how monstrous he is. But yeah, that's what I would say about that.
That's what I was thinking. Like by them kind of showing that stuff, like I said, they trying to like humanize him a little bit to kind of make him seem less monstrous, if you will. Like make him seem like, oh, he's just a regular guy. He's he's a wrestling fan. You know what I mean? Like
here's what I can be sure of: if what he was doing on his island with other grown men and kids, and if Bruno Sammartino or Pedro Morales or Iron Sheik were there, they would beat his ass. That's what I could be pretty sure about if they saw what was going on. That's a fair statement.
Yes, especially Bruno. Yes, just one of those weird things. Like, man, like you read all this weird stuff that's going on. Some of it's absolutely brutal and sick, and then you're like, oh, Prince Andrew, oh my god, and then you're like, Bruno Sammartino, what reference of like Bruno? And obviously, he was a fan of his. So I was like, man, you never know who's going to pop up in these things. It's weird.
Yeah, no, and I've heard people talk about that, but it means nothing. It means he's a man of a certain age who grew up in the United States, and that's what was popular, and that's what you watched. That's all it means. Good people watched it, and bad people watched it.
I feel like not everyone, but almost everyone of that age knows like wrestlers and stuff. You know what I mean? Like they'll be like, "Oh, Haystacks Calhoun or Bruno Sammartino." Like they'll all know, right? Like it was very popular for a lot of people.
Yeah, and Haystacks, like he wrestled in the Carolinas, where I'm from. Our friend Mike Mooneyham has said that when he was a kid and would go to County Hall in Charleston, they'd go out back and Haystacks Calhoun would have a bucket of chicken, would throw the bones at him. But didn't he also have a big feud with Big Daddy in England, right? Wasn't it Haystack and him?
Giant Haystacks, so different Haystacks.
Oh, you corrected me. I was confused. Okay, that was the other one. All right, I was just trying to see how far Haystack Calhoun had got in the wrestling world.
I'll double check on that, but I know it was Giant Haystacks because that's big Loch Ness, if you will. That was in.
You
as far as I know, as far as I think, but I know he obviously had a big run WWF too. I mean, he was all over the place. Haystacks,
right. So, but that's something. My late father, who did not watch, he knew Ric Flair and Blackjack Mulligans hit the clubs in the late 70s and 80s in Charleston after the matches, and so did my parents. That's what he knew about wrestling. But my great-grandmother, his grandmother watched it. The Great Bolo was somebody.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Now, that's not on anybody's radar, and there's no reason my dad should know that other than his grandmother actually watched wrestling in the Great Bolo. Haystack Calhoun's is in that category for somebody like Epstein. If you catch what I'm saying. He was bigger than the Great Bolo, but I think, only a person of a certain age would remember somebody like that.
Yeah, so that's Giant Haystacks. That was the Loch Ness Monster in WCW field. Haystacks Calhoun, WWF, obviously, but Big Time Wrestling, which is so funny. He was obviously big in Big Time Wrestling, which is what Epstein was referring to, that he was watching. Hey, I'm watching wrestling. It's so weird though. Like if you like thinking about Epstein, right? He's with all these like billionaires, and obviously he's setting some of them up. He's doing some stuff,
right?
And, who knows, CIA, Mossad, who the heck knows? But he's like setting them up. He's setting up Prince Andrew. He's like making all these, and then in his spare time, hey, I just watched Iron Sheik. like what the
right?
Fuck? It's so crazy. Like just to think about it. Yeah, pretty damn nutty
for sure.
What a weird time to be alive, right? I mean, when all this stuff,
and we're laughing a little bit, and Thomas Massey heroically is, he's grilling Pam Bondi, the AG.
Yeah, yep.
The emails that get me the most, you see these nasty things these people say to each other about kids, but like some of them will be like an Epstein client is inquiring about some kind of meetup or something. The answer will be age 11, age 9, age 12. And that's the only answer, and you know what's going on. And the idea that some people just want to move past this, no, we can't as a country just, that happened, no big deal. Trump's tired of hearing about it. No, not going to do it. Thank you, Massey.
I love that he was going at her strong, just because she's like, Merrick never had to deal with this, or this. Well, too bad. You're dealing with it now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't try to change the subject.
He said. She goes, why didn't, it just me and the Trump administration, and Massey forthrightly said, this is a multiple administration problem going back decades all the way to George W. Bush, but you're responsible for this portion of it.
Right.
She didn't say anything because that's exactly what's going on. So to try to pawn it off on other people, give me a break.
But if she's the AG right now, this is her responsibility. That's what's going on
Correct.
right now, correct?
And that's who's in front of him, and that's who's in charge, and that's what he's talking about. He put her in her place, and it was awesome.
Does he have like the unredacted files as far as time? Like
He's seen it all. So the statement he made is, I've seen all of it, all unredacted, nothing missing. And he's the guy who would say if something was missing, it was missing. And the reason they don't want you to see this is all these people are in it, is what he said.
Right.
And it would collapse the system and do something serious. And I'm not scared to tell the truth and see what happens, is basically what he said. I'm paraphrasing, but that's what he said. And that's the kind of leadership you want. If those people get in trouble, as he put it in an earlier time, if your favorite billionaire donor gets in trouble or embarrassed because he went to Rape Island, tough. We're going to talk about it.
Yeah, definitely just tough. And I thought it was funny too with everybody. Oh, they want Trump on there. They want Trump on there. But now I'm seeing a lot of liberals saying, "Oh, now we're putting out too much information. That's too much," because obviously it was put out there. Trump was a whistleblower back in 2006, basically helped get Epstein arrested. So, and which I knew, by the way, a while ago because I follow like not mainstream news, and this was already covered. But now ABC and different mainstream media is picking up on it, so now you're seeing it everywhere. But it's one of those things where it's like, wow, people didn't know he was like a whistleblower. They didn't know that he like hated Epstein and Epstein hated him. Like, wow.
It was for the most Trumpian reason. It is Mar-a-Lago. Epstein was allegedly recruiting girls.
And he didn't like that. Yeah.
And Trump's like, no, stop. It was a combination of he was hitting on underage girls and that, which is not mutually exclusive. But Trump was mad at him all those years ago. So, yeah. And there's not – look, do you really think actually implicating Trump in this, that the Democrats wouldn't have had it 8 years ago and been talking about it for 8 years? I mean, they made up this whole Russiagate thing that's fake, and they still talk about it. And if you poll Democrats, most of them mostly believe it. So if they had something real connecting Trump to child molestation, no. I don't believe a lot of things Ghislaine Maxwell says, but she's been pretty consistent on that. And it might be just to save her own ass, but they would have found it, and Democrats would have ran with it. Massey said earlier this week, the reason Democrats care about the Epstein files, because they didn't give a damn when Biden was president and they had access to the same information, is to get at Trump. And the reason many Republicans care about it is to get at Bill Clinton and what he might have done. And he said, me and Democrat Ro Khanna, who's also leading this charge, want justice for the victims. And I think he's being earnest in saying that.
But it's interesting. Ghislaine has said Clinton and Trump kind of had nothing to do with it. Really, I mean, we could say Clinton was there, and we have all these old pictures from God knows when of Trump and Epstein that are like 30 years old, like all this other stuff. But she was saying that they had nothing to do with what he was up to. If you
maybe that's possible. All I know is Bill Clinton was on that plane a lot. We know he likes
the Lolita Express. Yeah,
yeah, and I don't 3 million plus of these files. Thomas Massey's seen them. I can't say he's seen all of them, but he said he has access to the totality of it. I believe
right.
But like Bill Clinton could be in some of those. We don't know.
Right. Yeah, you never know.
Trump could be too. Like anything's possible. I just think, Bill Clinton's yesterday's news in a sense, and Trump is the here and now. And I think if Democrats had something on them that was real, they would use it. And I think the same Democrats would go to the ends of the earth to cover up Bill Clinton being involved.
Yeah. But it is funny that a lot of them were upset that it got revealed that he was a whistleblower and he's the one that kind of got Epstein arrested and got Epstein in trouble. So like, wait a second, Trump was kind of like the good guy, the baby face, if you will. Like, wait a second, get rid of this stuff. We can't have you covering this.
He was a baby face, and I think I mentioned before, Ron Paul's name pops up a bunch of times, and it's all Epstein's clients and Epstein himself complaining that he's not loyal to Israel enough among presidential candidates. So he looks like a hero. He didn't even do anything. His name's just mentioned to these things. Just being himself.
Bad. I also love when people do those like fake, cartoons or the AI stuff of like, the liberal and the Democrat or the Democrat, whatever, arguing with the conservative, and then them saying Epstein hated Trump, and and then the conservative go, yeah, he did, and they're like, but he's in the files. And they're like, yeah, because he hated him. Like, it wasn't anything like positive or glowing. It was like that he didn't like him. So isn't that the side you want to be on? And like, obviously the conservatives like, hello, yes, like they don't, for some reason, they're not connecting the dots. They're not, adding 1 and 1 to equal 2 there. Weird.
Tucker Carlson just released it, and he read some of those emails. He was like, here's why the Epstein Files people hate Ron Paul. One of them called him Dinkus Ron Paul. And it's basically because every other Republican presidential candidate would just bend over backward for Israel, and Ron Paul was the one that wouldn't.
Right. And they didn't like that.
Yep. They didn't like that.
And I love the like, oh, Russia. That's who Epstein worked for. Yeah, I don't think so. Come on, like
You-
Jesus Christ.
They want to protect Israel. Israel's government. Israel's a great country. I support Israel, but Israel's government, what they're doing, a lot of people are critical, including me, but they want to protect them. Epstein worked for them. That's all throughout the files and what we've seen. God knows what Thomas Massey has seen. Mossad, all that, that's what he was doing. But since they don't want to say that, they just make up something like the Democrats did, and Democrats say this too. Oh, he was working for Russia. Well, he might have done some work for Russia, but he did a lot for Israel too. And if you want to pretend otherwise, you're just lying.
Man, what a wacky situation with that whole thing. It did kind of come back to bite the Dems in the ass, to be honest, because now they're starting to see a lot of not some good stuff on their side of the fence, just as far as that's concerned.
Right.
I mean, it's on both sides of the fence, but the Trump whistleblower stuff is not good, and a bunch of other stuff that came out not good.
The Trump whistleblower stuff makes Trump look good, which is the exact opposite of what they don't care about justice for these now adult women who were abused when they were children. They care about getting at Trump.
Yep.
They care about. And when Trump looks good and, oh my God, this Democrat name's in there, this entertainer who's on our side, they're not going to like that. And they're going to be just like the goofy ass Republicans who attack Massey and agree with Trump that we shouldn't know about child abuse either.
Yep.
Stupid.
Now, just want to go back and mention Killer Cross is the MLW world champion now. I don't like, and we talked about this, I don't like that it was taped and then they spoiled it on their site, and he spoiled it. Like, that was weird. So it almost made me not want to go back and watch it. I was just talking to my buddy about it. He said he did go back and watch it, but he goes, it was a little different knowing that Cross wins rather than not being unpredictable and not knowing.
I watched it with my girlfriend. It was a fun show. Battle Riot is sort of their version of the Royal Rumble.
Yep,
and who comes out? It was exciting. Festus was in it, which was my favorite part of the whole show, which was Luke Gallows bringing back the Festus character. And we knew Karrion Kross was going to win, and it was awesome, and we're happy. And the home base for MLW is Charleston, South Carolina, where I live. But boy, would that have been cool to watch it live, and he won it. And we'd be talking about it more. It would have been covered more if it wasn't yesterday's news and how they did that. And the dumbest thing is that's the first time they've done that in some time. Most of these MLW specials have been live to YouTube, and this was they didn't do it. I don't know why. It baffles the mind.
Weird, wild stuff there. Just to close the loop on Brody King, Meltzer just reported very recently here, those at AEW have said nobody from WBD asked them not to use Brody King on last night's show, and that this was how the show was booked, only to use him in a video package. We had heard over the weekend, meaning Wrestling Observer, heard over the weekend that there were concerns about how much publicity the situation had gotten from Warner Brothers Discovery on their side. But those at AEW said they were not told to not put him on the show. Now, I don't know about the grammar there, but yeah. So interesting. He's kind of maybe playing both sides there a little bit, but very interesting. The closing the loop there. But obviously, we heard different from him at first, and Fightful's reporting something completely different. WBD is reporting something completely different.
Let me ask you this, and my prediction record is terrible. Is there any chance that Brody King would go over on MJF and win the title to make him another big main event guy like they seem to be doing with Andrade? And if that was any possibility, either way, would this controversy make it more likely that Brody King would win?
I don't know. That would actually kind of be smart, though, like just to get more pub, although maybe it's not the right pub, but still you're getting pub over it.
I just, MJF can stand to lose 100 times. He's still MJF. They're trying to make a new guy in Andrade. They could do it with Brody King.
Yep.
They could do it. I don't see how it hurts business, or I don't know. If he won, I'd be very excited. If he won, I wouldn't be surprised. Both of those things are true. So,
just to throw a little wrench in the, I know he put it out there that he was donating some money to Minnesota and the victims of ICE, and to the families. My only caveat with that is, this is Minnesota. How do we know the money's going where it's supposed to be?
Right.
I'm just throwing that out there, Brody. Just throwing that out there. We don't know. It's Minnesota, for Christ's sake.
And as a libertarian, I know we're getting towards the end of the show. I have libertarian friends that are right there with Brody. Abolish ICE, get rid of them. We just don't like authority and what's going on. I'm not an open borders libertarian. Some are. You got right wing and left wing libertarians. I think what Biden did with completely open borders was completely irresponsible and wrong. And I'm not surprised it swung the other way, where ICE are doing a lot of things that I don't agree with, picking up actual citizens and then releasing them and deporting them in some instances, and being abusive and rough. Alex Petty did not deserve what happened to him, all these sorts of things. So I agree with Brody King on that, who's definitely left wing. there's a lot of nuance here. You have to have something like ICE. I agree with Rand Paul. It shouldn't be federal agents doing it. It should be local law enforcement. So this is a big conversation to be had. It's not as simple as I'm for open borders and abolish ICE or crack down and pick up everybody and deport and arrest like there's a lot to work with in there. There's a more humane way to do it. I think Rand Paul's right, but I'm not King and my left-wing friends who say abolish ICE either. I don't like a lot of what I'm saying at the same time.
Just throwing it out there, though. You might have a problem with where the money's going. So just, Brody, if you're listening, please be careful. Send it to the right to people that actually need the money. Just one final thing I wanted to bring up, too. WrestleMania 42, obviously, I like the build up so far because Roman versus Punk is awesome. It's going to be a huge match. That's a huge dream match. I mean, that's great. But there is some concern that the ticket sales, being that it's in Vegas for the second straight year, is a bit down. Here's the only other thing, too, which people I think are starting to pick up on now, and Vegas residents are picking this up. Vegas tourism has been down for over a year. So it's not like it's one of those things where, oh, they're down on WrestleMania. I think they're down on Vegas.
I think they are. That's inflation. That's jobs. That's just the economy. And
the
where
traffic. They did all those races over there, which killed the traffic, and they had to reorganize the streets and everything when they're doing those Formula One races. Terrible.
Correct. And I think you probably heard, and a lot of people watching, that the WWE is not letting the bars around the Las Vegas area for 50-mile perimeter show WrestleMania. So you can't go to Dave and Buster's and watch WrestleMania like you have in other times. That's indicative to me if they want to get their ticket sales up. You either watch it on TV or you go to the event, like at home on TV. I don't know, man. It's the free market. From what I understand is the worst seats were $200. Now they've dipped down to about $80-something. This was the last thing I heard.
Not bad.
That's for nosebleed. That's like the worst seats you can get. And after that's $100, then it goes back up, and the expensive seats are still what they are. I went to one WrestleMania in Louisiana. That was Ronda Rousey's debut with Kurt Angle and Stephanie or whatever that was going on. Nia Jax won the world title, whatever. And my seat was okay. And I paid $350 for that seat. And I was okay with paying that. I think that seat right now was probably close to $1,000 if I had to look.
Wow.
I wouldn't want to sit at nosebleed at the WrestleMania that I was at. I would rather just been at home and watch it on TV. The ring was too far away for my taste from where I was, and it was an okay ticket, if that makes sense. So we'll see what happens.
It is interesting. Like, just the setup seems they're doing a little bit less of a setup. Obviously, they'll add in more as you get more seats, but they've sold about, I think, 37,000 tickets per night, which is funny. It's like, oh, that's a bad, but compared to last year, I think it's about 18% down or something like that.
Right.
But like, what do they do? What could they do? I don't know. They obviously lower the tickets will help. Maybe add, which Austin will be at WB World that week. He'll be signing autographs, so maybe do something with Austin. Maybe add The Rock in the mix. I don't know. Lesnar,
they need something.
Yep.
Punk and Roman is huge. That needed to happen. It's happening. It's big, but that alone is not going to carry. I don't think Cody and Drew is big enough. Cody's big on his own, but you know what I'm saying? The idea that Cody's going to beat him, get the title belt, that's cool. But I don't think that's enough to be a real needle mover.
Wonder what they do. Very interesting. Yeah. I think they'll be okay, but it's just one of those things where this is WrestleMania. You can't run the same city twice in a row. You should have did New Orleans, but whatever. Who am I? To say that? But they screwed over New Orleans. This might be karma. But
they sure
let's
did.
wrap up this bad boy and head towards a plug. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram at 2Man Power Trip. How about you, Jack?
You can find all my nonsense on Jack Hunter 74 on X, and had a great time with you today, John.
All right. Thank you, Jack. Great time. As always, I'd like to thank everybody out there for listening. See you right back here next week for a little Capital and